Alrighty, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do a little quick 4-hour sweep. Quick spin through the 4 hours, try to see what's going on. Okay, let's just get right into it. Buckhorn. What's going on with Buckhorn here? Obviously, this is positively correlated to the equities market. Been enjoying the death of this stock market lately. So, kind of stepping down in price. We got a little bit more to go, I'm sure. Now we've been watching this, obviously this higher time frame weekly level down there. Not looking very good here for Bitcoin. Not even going to bother out and zoom out and look at targets, but we're looking at sub 10K on this. Probably. Do have some money to come back and take on the way back up. Hasn't decided to run up yet. So obviously going to watch the equities market for some sign of a recovery and trade in line with that as far as large cap crypto is concerned. So right now, and again, these are 4-hour candles. So kind of coming off of a block high up here, kind of come a range consolidation high. And we're in the middle. We try to stay out of the middle. We got a price action hamburger. We only enter in the buns, giggity. We try to stay out of the middle because you have equal opportunity to get stopped out both ways. So not really looking to mess with this right now. This is not the dip you're looking for. These are not the droids you're looking for on Bitcoin yet. Let this come and break the low, start to show some evidence of a reversal or some stabilization on the low. We'll watch equities to see if there's a stabilization there. It's looking like the US equities market's going to continue lower, and it is what it is. So we're going to continue to watch that to try to get an idea on where large cap crypto is going to go. This is very likely going to be a short. I'm not a big fan of the entry right here. Not a huge fan of the entry in the middle, but I'm assuming that we're going to end up lower. This tends to be dead over the weekend now. So probably not going to mess with that on a Friday. Again, expecting lower prices, not the best entry. We'll come back to that. Okay. The elephant in the room, US dollar. Dollar index, what's going on? I got a bunch of chicken scratch on the screen, but what's happening here is a range expansion, and we've now broken the high again. So we've set a new high. We're up here like a 20-year high. Interestingly enough, though, we did break the low and then came back and broke the high. So this range is expanding away from its equilibrium. And what we're going to do is we're going to look for another short entry point. I know that sounds crazy. It's fundamentally bullish, but technically very weak and bearish at this point from here. And that's the thing, from up here. I'd really like to see this retest a high up here. We don't need all these lines on the screen, but really like to see this retest a high or possibly even break a high. And I'm definitely going to be looking for a short. We talked about this yesterday at the high. This was absolutely a short on the broken high. Wish I would have positioned a little heavier for that. It is what it is. So right now, we've already come down for like 20 hours straight, kind of rejected off the low. This is very likely going to end up in a range. We've got a big spike high. We've got a spike low. What it looks like is happening here is a range consolidation is starting to develop, but we haven't really defined the upper and lower boundaries yet. So this is kind of what we're doing, just like the price action hamburger we just talked about on Buckhorn. This is kind of in the middle. It's not really on the low anymore. We want to see this candle close, and then if it pulls back, possibly maybe try to take an entry, just like a scalp day trade long on a Friday. A long dollar. We'll position long dollar against something else, whether that be euro dollar short, pound dollar short, Aussie dollar short, etc. We'll take a look at relative volatility, see what's weak to potentially trade against a dollar. So this is a maybe. I'd like to see this candle close first in an hour 45, and if it pulls back a little bit, we can possibly take a gamble that it won't break the low, just to pull up a little bit more. The flip side to that is, good Lord, this thing is high. So on the macro, it's extremely high, obviously. A lot of people getting punished on the US dollar right now. It's been a very difficult market this week, and especially this week, and just in general over the last couple months, dollar has been a wild trade. So, kind of what's going on here with the dollar index again, just 4-hour structural and price action analysis, just assuming that this is going to hold and try to pick up a little bit. This kind of price action, it's almost like a 3-line strike where you get a big bullish candle. It's an inverted 3-line strike. If you kind of pay attention to candlestick patterns, it's not really the most important thing to me personally, but the price action tells a story, and that's the important thing. You get a big bullish candle here, and you get the multi-candled grind back down to the point that it took off, and that generally defines the boundaries of a range. And we're trying to anticipate where our lower end is going to be on our range consolidation that's forming, and we're going to try to identify this block and trade the highs and lows. So that's kind of what we got right now. Again, let this candle close. If it were to pull back, the aggressive trade would be to go long dollar on a pullback, to possibly retest the high of this range. There's no evidence of anything other than that yet. We'll watch this candle close. If for some reason it closes really bearish, then we'll be looking down lower, at potential points, possibly down here. Well, first this gap right there, but really all of this right here, this back down to what would be considered the bottom of the range. And at some point, what's very likely to happen, and this is what we're going to be looking for probably next week on the dollar, if there's going to be another high here, we're going to be looking for this to come back to potentially break this swing low right there. There's a gap in volume right here. It's low volume back into a dense consolidation. Got the low right here. This right here is suspect. That's going to be a target on the way down. Going to be at or below this low to complete the third iteration here in this range expansion. But right now, this looks like this is forming a consolidation. We'll have to wait and see how this closes. Kind of messy on the dollar right now. Again, I think as the day goes on, we may see a green candle here. Skip that for now. So that being said, we have a ranging to potentially mildly bullish situation on the dollar. So moving on, move to the Aussie dollar. Big thing going on here too. Big range expansion happening. Broke the high, broke the low, broke the high, broke the low, back to retest the equilibrium of the range expansion, back to broke the low, lower high here. At some point, this is very likely going to make a higher low, and we're going to get that transition from lower lows to higher lows to go back up and kind of retest the highs up here, I'm assuming. As the dollar comes down, at some point, the US dollar is going to come down. And, we all know how this goes. It's going to come down at some point. The question is where and when. And that's why we look at higher highs for shorts and lower lows for longs. We don't buy the high or sell the low. We don't wait for something to break a high to buy it. We don't wait for something to break a low to sell it. We're predictive, not reactive. We want to anticipate the move to catch more distance. We want to catch more of this spread between the high and low. So we're going to watch that. Dollar's in a weird spot right now as far as today within a day trading context. I mean, we got some levels a little bit higher right here. I mean, obviously, there's going to be this. We're kind of, our effective trading range at the moment is something similar to this, and we don't, we could get surgical on it, and I could get my mouse to work. We could get surgical. You could refine this down a little bit on lower time frames and try to figure it out. But for example's sake here, our effective trading range is this, and we're pretty much in the middle of it right now. Got a big, nice bullish candle. What I'd like to see here is some kind of a pullback towards center mass of this big bullish candle that's pressed off of the low. This will pull back a little bit. Maybe we can catch some day trade scalps or something. Aussie dollar long. I want to be long Aussie dollar on the macro. We want to find the point where it's likely to make a higher low potentially. We have a potential higher low coming to kind of run up and complete that range expansion that's going on right now. But, you know, at the moment, had a really weird day yesterday. Price is kind of stabilizing. I'm assuming that this is going to be bullish. The Australian dollar is somewhat bullish this morning. So there's that. Kind of skip that for now. It's in a weird spot. If it pulls back a little bit, maybe we could take some long scalps on that or something. It's Friday, so we want to be careful. Euro dollar. Again, tied to the dollar. We're really, really low here. Again, like a 20-year low on euro dollar. Not much to say here. So it's a very clear range expansion. Consolidation. It is a range expansion on higher time frames, but it is kind of a consolidation here. This is sketchy. You want to be very careful with this kind of stuff. Logically splitting this up. Let me get rid of this for 1 second. We were just kind of talking about the gap in volume here where there wasn't structure built over time. Let me get these lines off the screen. Got to do a little chart cleanup here. You know, some of the stuff we talk about on lower time frames. We've been killing this over the last little bit. Just keep catching the low. We keep catching it, getting these big trades on it. But starting to see this flat consolidation. It's a mess. You know, if you logically split this into a range, start to see what's going on. That's sellers on the top, buyers on the bottom. You know, just kind of roughly identify where our buyers and sellers are and where the density of the block is going to be. So we can see that we want to try to stay out of the density of this. Now, the problem here, again, this is inversely correlated to the dollar index. It's the closest inverse correlation that there is, euro dollar and the dollar index, because of the weighting of the dollar index. The dollar index is weighted 57% in euros. So obviously, as goes the dollar, the opposite is true for euro dollar. So it's almost a near perfect inverse correlation. So that's why we always watch the dollar index when we're trying to figure out what we're going to do with the euro dollar. It's very important. So we were just talking a few minutes ago about that inverted 3-line strike. Here's the inverse of that that we were just looking at. Got a big nasty bearish candle here. If I could draw a straight line, got a big nasty bearish candle, multi-candle grind back up, small bodied candle grind to the point of the dump. This is setting up a block right here. This is a range that's developing. Get rid of all these crazy lines on here. We're starting to develop a range. As we enter up here a little bit higher, this is very likely going to be a short. How this generally ends is with a big nasty candle to go retest the low. Get rid of all these lines I just put on the screen. How this is generally going to end is with a failure and a big dump to retest the low. So that's interesting, because that would suggest a stronger dollar. Now, flipping back to the dollar index we just talked about, see the inverse of that move. Big bullish candle on euro dollar is big bearish candle. Multi-candle grind back down to the bottom of the range. What we were just looking for in the dollar index is a push back up to retest the range. We were just talking about this. We want to see that big push back up to retest the top of the range on the dollar index. And the likely trade, how you would trade that is you would be short euro dollar. If we're long dollar, we're short euro dollar, right? So there's probably a trade coming here. The question is it going to happen today? It's about 5 o'clock in the morning, Wall Street time here in Florida. I'm in New York time zone. We have really two candles that matter left. We've got our 5 a.m. that just started 24 minutes ago. We got our 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. candle. Then we have our 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. candle. After that, we have our 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. candle to market close. It's Friday too, by the way. Friday with Labor Day coming. I'm assuming it's going to be a bank holiday. Hold on 1 second. Lose my voice again. Gotta take a sip of my coffee. So we're trying to, at this point of the morning, just after London sessions kind of died down. We're in that dead spot for the day before New York. We're trying to figure out what the next two candles are going to do on the 4 hour. What are these next two 4 hour candles likely to look like? And can we get a directional bias based on that? So what we're looking to do, obviously, is we're going to probably let this candle run up a little bit, somewhere near what would logically be the top of this range that's forming. And we're going to look for honestly, a big red candle to come back and test the low. So that's going to be a possibility here on euro dollar. Once it gets up here, and we'll take a look at this on lower time frames and try to figure it out. Let's move on. Euro yen, it's on a high. It's on a high. Got some stuff over here to the left. We've already pushed through there. Got this flimsy block right here, but it was a previous high of the cycle, the mini cycle high. And this was the drop point. So this is the point where your shorts were correct in the direction of the move, but have not been stopped out yet. So this is going to be liquidity to close longs. If you need, for every transaction, there's a buyer and a seller. So if you want to close some smart money longs down here on euro yen, we've been way into this all since the low. Say we were still in this trade, mine has closed out in a basket on that account. But if we were still in this, we would be looking to close or take profit up here at the point where the shorts are going to get stopped out, because that's where your activity is going to be. That's where your liquidity is at or above that. A little bit more, so expecting euro yen to probably push a little bit more. It's not a good long, obviously, and we just broke a low. Unfortunately, this is not, broke a high. It's unfortunately not really a good entry long, even though we've got some targets higher that would make sense. That's going to be the point where the contract settlement's going to be. It's likely to pull up there and stop and go into a distribution. Probably going to push up a little bit more over the next couple candles and start this distribution like that and then pull back. This is very likely going to be a very good short next week. It's had a big, nice move off the low all the way up, screaming to the upside this week. This will probably be for next week. If this will set up here today, maybe we can position on it. And again, some of the best entries you're ever going to get are going to be at the end of the day on a Friday. It's just weird the way that works out. It's done intentionally. So as this pushes up, I'd be more interested in the short for next week. It's going to be probably a very good short coming off of this next week on euro yen. Moving on, euro CAD, shark fin. Shark fin reversal. We're not going to get into this. This is group stuff. Manipulation trade. We've been all over this since before it happened. We're watching liquidity pools above and below a range consolidation. Got to come down, take out the longs first, and then run up and take out the shorts. And we're in the consolidation right now. And it will almost always run all the way back through the consolidation into a gap below a previous density. So we're looking to take out everybody who is short in this consolidation. Where are their stop losses? You don't need to see order flow to know this. Where's everybody's stop who was short in here? Everybody who got this right, where's their stop? Right here. Just above that high. Retail mindset stops are just above that high. So there's a pool of liquidity, manufactured liquidity, built above this consolidation. So what's going on here is we're running up to that. It ran up almost to it. It's pulling back into a range. What's going to happen here very likely is there's going to be a range consolidation here. And we're stepping up on into that. So we got to get up a little bit more to tap that liquidity. All the shorts who were correct in the move, the smart money longs who need to close, they need sellers. Buyers. This is buy side liquidity. They need buyers in order to sell on the way up. You need buyers willing to buy it from you at a higher price. So as this pushes up here, they're going to be closing those longs and the buyers up there. So what we're expecting here is some kind of a range like this. It's very likely going to hold and run higher. This is probably going to run higher and end up consolidating at a higher level inside of this gap right here that was kind of low volume between the consolidations. Interesting where this is on EuroCAD because it's technically at the low of what its perceived range would be. So we're kind of in the buy zone now, and we would expect it to run higher. So that's a thing. We'll come back to that. Weird. And this is probably going to be more of the CAD than the Euro move. Kind of getting conflicting information between Euro and different Euro pairs right now. This was funny yesterday. Not really funny, but that's what that was. I got stopped out. I hit my loss limit on one of my accounts up here, and then it immediately ran heavily in my favor. It was soul crushing. That's another story. It happens sometimes. Euro pound. I want to be short. I only want to be short on this because of where it is. There's some strategy reasons why. This is very high statistically within a very short period of time, and it's unlikely to be sustainable. There's probably going to be a big short here coming. We'll be looking for this to come up and potentially make a lower high or equal high or something and do some kind of a pullback. We're definitely targeting down here. This is the point where, again, your longs were correct in the move and have not been stopped out, where there was some structure built. So it's not a lot, but there was some contract settlement in here, and there's going to be some liquidity there on the way back down. So we're going to target that on the way back down, but we'll try to figure out where that's going to be, whether or not it's going to break the high or not. It's going to be a weird close on that this week. Kind of skip that for now. Want to be short. Euro Aussie, lower high rejection. Same thing up on the high, just big move up over the last month or so, couple weeks really. Just big lower high, big bearish candle right here. Obviously, I mean, that's not good. So we'll be watching somewhere up here for a rejection point, see if this is going to come up and fail, and then maybe pull back down somewhere. It's not really a lot here on the way down. Again, it's going to be a great short at some point, just for a pullback. It came off of a lower low, big push back up. This is very likely in time going to end up doing something like this, pulling back and potentially making a higher low. That's what we're looking for. But do you really want to be long up here with all this selling going on? Do you really want to buys above this level thing? Like, do you really want to buy a breakout here after this big of a move all the way back up, straight up? It's probably not a good idea. Just logically, it's not a good idea. You've had a big 3% move up. I would expect some kind of distribution up here. It's a range forming. It's a range at the high. And you've got this. This is what's going on. We're in the middle of the block. The block is developing. So again, another potential, what looks like to be some type of a retracement short in the euro. Euro Kiwi, it's going to be very similar to Euro Aussie. The Aussie and the Kiwi tend to run together. So almost always we take Euro Aussie and Euro Kiwi as a basket together because one will always outperform the other. Sometimes you don't know exactly which one, but they almost always run the same direction. And that's the important part. They may run at a different rate, but they mostly always run the same direction. So this is going to be very similar. Obviously, big bearish railroad tracks up here, big bearish nasty candle. We're going to be watching for this to pull up a little bit and probably fail at some point and then come down. Not much below it. Same situation. At some point there's going to be a really good pullback short here. Probably, so these are 4-hour candles. We got a couple more candles. May get the entry today. Take a shot at a lower high rejection for next week, and if not, we'll look at it Monday. Moving on, the pound dollar specifically. So we've already kind of figured out what's going on with the dollar. That's half of the equation. Again, relative volatility wise, we need to know what both components of the pair are doing. We need to know which direction and rate they're traveling. This is kind of funky price action. Honestly, this is, would kind of expect this to be moving up. This kind of thing looks like it's going to run up a little bit. Obviously, there's some stuff going on up here. This would be the easy to understand target on the way up, and it may be a range. You may get something like this that starts forming over time, hasn't really developed yet. Again, start to see a pattern here on how this stuff works. Price moves vertically and horizontally, doesn't move diagonally. That's why we don't do trend lines. Higher, it's not a great entry. I would probably let this candle close, or if you really wanted to be aggressive, you could get this long and just make sure that you obey your stop on this one today. It would make a lot of sense that this is going up. However, in a way, this is kind of that same price action that, three lines strike-ish. You got a big bearish candle, multi-candled small body grind up. A lot of times you'll get a red candle coming off of that. I'd like for it to pull back first. That's kind of what I was saying a minute ago. It's aggressive to try to jump into this long now. It's not something I would generally do. Part of my rules is I always buy red candles and I always sell green candles only. So this is probably not a good idea. We've been grinding up for 20 or so hours back to a potential rejection point here. It's just probably not a good idea to start buying this, to be honest. I would wait and see if this will pull back and possibly make a higher low, and we'd look at it on lower time frames and try to figure it out. But right now, it appears that it's going to pull up a little bit over the next few candles. Now, the question is that going to be today on a Friday? Not sure. Skip it and look at it next week. Pound yen, pretty clear what's going on here. Just simple supply and demand stuff. This doesn't really have anything to do with strategy or G13 classified strategy. But as far as supply and demand is concerned, and just the logic of buyers and sellers, probably don't want to be long. Sorry. If I could speak English, what would I say? Probably don't want to be long here, right? And again, it's about potential. What is our potential left on this trade? A lot of people are buying this right now with very little potential before we get into a point where there's clearly selling, and there's some sellers going to get stopped out at break even. So there's going to be some activity and contract settlement here. We don't really want to play in the wave pool. We don't want to play in the kiddie pool here. Like, we want to stay out of that. We should already be in this long if we were looking at getting long on it. That being said, it's not necessarily a short yet. I would wait and let this pull back up into here first, and then we'll look at lower time frames and try to figure out where the entry is going to be. There's likely to be some type of a retracement short in here. It's probably going to pull up into here and then stall and then pull back, likely into this right here on the way back down. So we have an effective trading range established here, and we'll take a look at it. We'll take a look at it when it gets up there. It could be a sell the high of the week situation, and then next week's candle may pull back significantly, and there could be a good trade here, a good short on pound yen. You don't want to buy this right now, obviously. Next, but may mark this actually and look at it on lower time frames. Let me reset on my marks real quick. It's stuff we were looking at this week. 1 second. Start our analysis over next week. So pound yen, it's probably going to be a pretty good short coming here. I would let it go a little bit more. We'll watch it on lower time frames. I'm looking at probably 162.6 ish. If it'll pull all the way up, maybe not that high, but we'll see. And if it pushes through, good game. It's going to be hard for it to do that today, but it's possible. It's possible that it does make a higher high, and we'll be looking back up here at some stuff. We got targets higher. We just don't want to enter it long right now because we would be buying into selling, and we don't want to become a bag holder for someone who made a better trade than we did, right? Someone's looking to use your buys, your breakout buys, or your momentum buys. This candle is bullish, so buy it. People are looking to use that mentality to close their longs. So we don't want to become liquidity for the shark. We don't want to be the fish. We want to be the shark. Be the lion, not the gazelle. Skip it. Next, pound CAD. almost don't even want to look at it. It's been very frustrating this week on this one. It's still a good long. Pretty ridiculous, but it's still a good long. May not want to enter it right now. I'd probably let this candle close and take the pullback on the next candle. If we get a big bullish candle that kind of confirms, you know, closes in momentum, kind of confirms that we're pulling off of the low, may try it on a pullback. If it'll pull back, may try it long, because realistically where this is very hard to pass up. This is some juicy stuff right here. If you zoom out, again, these are 4-hour candles, but you know, lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low, deep lower low. Got a long potential way to go up just to potentially make a lower high. You have a long way to go just to, even if it was going to make a lower high. You know, this is the kind of stuff where you get these big 300-400 pip trades. There's stuff like this, but you gotta take the risk on it. Generally lower risk with smaller lot sizes and let the distance do the work. There's a trade-off between risk and distance. You know, so we take less risk but more distance to get the same yield in dollars. You end up getting an equal trade with multiples less risk than the other guy. So let this candle close. If it pulls back, maybe I'll try it again. Yeah, I'll probably be looking at this Monday, to be honest. Pound CAD, there's a very interesting situation here, though. It's very deep. I thought it was going to go off of this. We got in this twice this week. Got it right twice and got stopped out at break even twice. And then it dumped yesterday. So now that it's dumped and made a new lower low, it's time to buy it again off the lower low. So good game here. We'll try to get an idea on the pound. Try to figure that out. Maybe we'll figure it out on Monday. Pound Swiss, I'm not a big fan of this one. I don't really know why it's on the watch list. Can be some really weird price action. It's not really great right now. Just skip it. Price action's whack. Super choppy. It is low. I don't know. Skip it for now. Not a fan of that one. Pound Aussie. Get rid of some of this crap. 1 second. Let's see. Big nasty candle. It's just in a range at. Get rid of this. This is one of our trades from earlier this week. Our effective trading range is here. You know, in this cycle, we've dropped down and we've gone into a consolidation. We have sellers on the high and buyers on the bottom. We're going to try to stay out of the meat in the middle. It's a price action sandwich. We're staying out of the middle in the meat. Right? You know, if you think about it logically like this, just using an example, an analogy to get a point across. Get rid of all this crap. That's lower time frame stuff. So we've established that there is some type of range consolidation here. We've sold off again off the high. The obvious thing is that we're going to go back and retest the low. Now, how do we get into that? The question is, how do you get in without getting stopped out? Again, we're going to watch center mass of our big nasty bearish candle that sold off the top. We're going to let this try to pull up a little bit and then start anticipating the lower high to retest the low. Just another potential shortcoming. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to buy this here. There's no reason to go long here. We're kind of in the middle of a dense consolidation coming off of the high. If anything, we're going to be looking to retest the low down here a little bit lower. So that's a thing. Pound Kiwi is going to be very similar because the Aussie and Kiwi tend to run together. We've been watching this range since before it really started to develop. Kind of the same situation here. Let it pull back up a little bit. This one's in a little bit different structure. This one's kind of already near the bottom of its range. I would let it pull down a little bit. I just may leave this alone. This kind of price action is not great. I would be looking for this to go a little bit lower before I tried to attempt something long. It's not necessarily a short entry right now, obviously, because it's already down. You don't want to sell something when it's already down because you've missed the move. You want to get you want to maximize your potential distance on a trade, even if it's supposed to be a short trade. You want to at least, like a short distance trade, like a scalp or something. You want to at least give yourself a chance to have a bigger trade. So this is meh on this. I'm assuming this is going to pull back up a little bit, but not necessarily go wild to the upside. Kind of skip that. We'll look at this another time. CAD yen. Actually, just took a short on this morning. Let me actually check on this real quick. Looking pretty good. This is just took another short on this a few minutes ago. First things we did this morning. So this is looking very, very good. We got an awesome entry here. Let's go back to our 4 hour. Big, huge high up here. We're at the top of our range. And again, if you logically split this into buyers and sellers on the macro, we are at the top of a big range. We're not going to buy this up here. We're not looking to go long up here, right? Why would we buy the top? Potential lower high here. It is Friday though, so see how that goes. It was a weird one yesterday. Caught this a couple times lately. We actually caught it way back here too. This was a huge trade right here. This was 1,200 pip basket. I remember we took euro yen, CAD yen, and pound yen short on this particular trade back here a little bit ago. That was 1,200 pips between those three trades. It was awesome. And we're back up here again. Just again, caught this week short. Caught it again today. Let it come down. There's no reason to do anything but short this at the moment. It may not be the best entry. Now it's not. But there's a reason why we did this, and that's strategy stuff that we do in the group. Nothing to do. Infinity to the downside. Infinity to the downside. Short it. Close your chart. Just let it go for a month or two. Dollar CAD. Boy, this one's way up here too. We've already kind of talked about the dollar. We're going to look for the dollar to go up a little bit before we start looking at entries. Looks like it might not be done yet. A lot of weird stuff going on with the dollar right now. A lot of uncertainty with the US dollar. I would just let this chill. It's in you got these little small body candles. It's not really good to mess with it in that it's a sliding consolidation is what it is. You get these little grinding candles, little tiny small body. This is the stuff that'll get you. This will stop you out repeatedly until you hit your loss limit for the day. This is the kind of stuff that'll get you when you're running, larger lot sizes with stops. You will chew yourself down in a market like this. So it's probably best to leave it alone. Wait for it to pull up a little bit, and then maybe we'll talk about selling the top of whatever perceived range there may be up here. Skip it for now. NASDAQ. Boy, did we get that right. Look at these shorts up here. Still not down there yet. We still haven't hit target on these shorts from a couple weeks ago. This was like a 10% move. More than that, 13% move. As of price right now, those shorts are sitting at 10% in profit if you were still in this. And we took some protection counter trend short longs and caught that too. But now we're down to, took it short the other day again over here. But yeah, this is not looking very good here. It's looking like it's probably going to be a range. As far as today is concerned, man, this is going to be a weird one. It's just obviously nothing happening here. It's still pre-market at this point. It's 5:48 a.m. if you're watching this in the future. Not really much to say here on this. Just very likely downside, targets to the downside. So just continued pain in the equities market until we get lower. Not much to say here. It's a maybe. I mean, you could take it. I might wait on this on a Friday. This looks like it may range here, and we don't know what this candle is going to do. It's still pre-market. I would let the equities market open first before I made a decision on this. The whole thing could slam back up to here and then come down. It's probably not a good time to make a decision if I had, gun to my head, going short just because of the structure. But meh. You're going to get identical situation on the S&P 500. We don't need to go through it. We've got targets to the downside. It's in a weird spot. Not good. Not a good place for an entry. The Dow, same thing, identical. There's no reason to do any extended analysis on that. I'll skip the VIX. Let's just look at that more for reference. Oil. We talked about this the other day. Caught an awesome long up here. Caught a good short at the top to protect it. We knew the reversal was coming. Got in it, caught it. Some good trades there lately. As far as where we are right now, bounced off the low again yesterday. Yesterday, after that big dump, we were looking for that point to close the short and potentially flip it long. You really probably want to be long on this, fundamentals aside. Zoom out a little bit and look at what's going on. We have a huge range here, and we're at the bottom of it, and we've double bottomed at the bottom of it above a previous consolidation. There's no reason to short this. Like, you're shorting something that's already down, and there's I think it was like a 30% potential move here back to retest the high. Yeah, 40% just to the swing high. Even if it makes a lower high somewhere up here, you're looking at like a 30% gain on oil. It's just almost certain that it's going to happen. Fundamentals aside, I mean, this is probably going to pull back up and retest that high, even if it makes a lower high. You got 30% to make a lower high, and as far as risk reward is concerned, there's no reason to sell this. You're selling something that's already dropped 40% and hasn't recovered yet. It hasn't even pulled back. Dude, it's not a short. No matter what they're talking about on the news, no matter what Russia's doing, no matter what Saudis are doing, this is not a short. At minimum, one last hurrah. So we're definitely watching oil here. We're watching oil for a pullback. Going to see what kind of range gets established. If this will pull back a little bit, I'm expecting this to probably come back a little bit, but make a higher low. Put in some kind of a consolidation here, and then maybe we'll step up to the next level, start this kind of thing, move up in our cycle. That would be the play. It's the thing that makes the most sense. Definitely don't want to sell it on the low. See a lot of people saying short oil down here. Probably not a good idea in my personal opinion. But, whatever. Let it come back a little bit, and then probably try to get long again for next week. There's a big move coming on this, I'm sure, very soon. Gold. Last on the list. Gold. Again, just had some really good trades on this lately. Caught the low. Caught it again long there. Got it again yesterday on the low. I'm actually on the low of this, like within a couple pips. I just don't have it marked here. But actually took this yesterday when this dumped down at the end of the day. Actually got long on that. I've got a couple positions on it. 2 are in profit, 1 is not. Just trading the position. It's a higher low after a big, huge drop. We were just talking about oil. You got to go out to a daily chart to really see this. And I know there's a lot of fundamental stuff going on. The geopolitical events with gold and how it's pegged to the ruble, and there's a complication there. There's a economic warfare complication going on with gold right now. But technically, we're technical traders first. We are on a very well-defined range low. Do you want to be short here, or do you want to be long here? Think about it. Think about where price is currently. So it's just you're buying red candles on this, in my opinion. On gold, that's my personal take on it. You're buying red candles. Let it pull back. Every lower low, you're trying to scale into it to try to catch the big one. Just any kind of retracement back up. The second people say, oh, that's not going to happen because this and this fundamental reason, that's exactly when they're going to get their face ripped off. That's exactly why it will happen, is the people think it won't happen. It's the way this works. I wouldn't want to be selling anything heavy down here. So not really much to say, but let this candle close. It's not really a good entry long at the moment. Maybe see how this closes and look for what's going to happen. I bet there's going to be a better entry coming on this probably early next week. But it would make sense that there's going to be some upside inbound on gold. So that's kind of the thing. So what's the cliff notes here? What's the general consensus? What's the prognosis, Doc? We've identified some stuff on the dollar. We know it's very high. We've identified the range expansion. It's starting to sell off already. And get back to our 4-hour candles. Don't want to be long up here, really. And now that we're getting something different on this 4-hour candle, then this is the thing. A minute ago, this was kind of a bullish hammer. It was showing that it might start rejecting, and if it doesn't, this is going to be a completely different analysis. Honestly, this is very likely going to come down. The question is how far. Just probably don't want to mess with it right now. It's probably not a good time to mess with it, because as this candle closes, if it's going to close bearish now, we're still expecting some upside. There's going to be some type of recovery. Now, the question is how high. But you got to, again, be very careful with longs because of where this is on the macro. This is extremely high, and we've got a suspicious spike low down here that was it expanded the range to the downside, and then it broke the low and then broke the high. So this is always going to be a target on the way down. So that's kind of the thing. But expecting a bearish dollar over the next little while, not necessarily from here. You don't want to sell it now. That's already dropped for 24 hours. We'll take a look at this in a few minutes when we do our group stuff on lower time frames. But kind of the general consensus is we got some weird stuff going on in the dollar. Not really much to say here. Euro pound. As this goes back up a little bit, there may be a shift in the dynamic between the euro and the pound. At some point, this is going to be lower. Either going to wait for this level up here where the selling has started, or a higher high to try to short this. Look for the euro to get weaker and the pound to get stronger, probably next week. But let this come up here first. We're gonna watch obviously where our selling is going on and see if it stalls here. See if it comes up into here and stalls. You see why we're not buying this now, because we're just buying into selling. We don't want to become a bag holder up here and buy someone's bags way up high that they bought way down here. They're trying to sell it to us up here. It's going to be some shorts closing up here, and it's likely to distribute. That's what you get. You get a distribution of profits up on highs like this. That's why you get these ranges and then a pullback. It'll start to make a lower high and then dump. And we already know where we're watching on the way down. So as far as the dynamic between the euro and the pound, it looks like it may shift coming next week. Tried to get short on this yesterday. Was right too early. Hate that. There is such a thing as being right too early. So anyway, looking for this to come up, probably going to reject to make a lower high, end up dumping next week. We'll watch that. This is going to be definitely something to watch next week. So as far as the euro and the pound is concerned, maybe a weaker euro, stronger pound next week. So that's something to watch. Again, the dollar, iffy right now. We'll have to see where this going. This may be expanded down here a little bit lower, and there's a little bit of a gap here, but yeah, and this, we're getting a different piece of information here. And again, that's why I always say we want to wait for this candle to close, because now something completely different's happened since we started talking about it. This was a big green hammer a minute ago. Maybe this is what's going on, right? And it just hasn't fully developed yet. And we're looking for our buy zone to be potentially down here to hold this dense consolidation. It's a possibility. So we may have a very weak dollar inbound today even. And we'll see how this candle closes. This is obviously not a good candle, but any full-bodied candle is generally followed by a pullback. So it's still probably going to pull back up to some degree once this candle closes. And that's what we're watching for. Coming to an interesting level here, by the way. What's going to happen with this as it closes? So we'll wait. I'd probably wait for that. Equities market, again, looking for a little bit lower. It's probably not a good entry, but at some point it's very likely to break that low and run lower. And the segue into large cap crypto, because of that move that's likely coming in the equities market, very likely going to see lower prices in crypto because of that. When it's positively correlated, because the demographic of the Bitcoin trader has changed over the last little bit, last couple years. It's Wall Street bets now, that's trading Bitcoin, and not necessarily your crypto weekend warriors. Notice it doesn't move on the weekend anymore. It's the Wall Street bets army. They might take a little AMC, a little Ethereum, a little whatever, little Tesla, a little Bitcoin, They buy and sell at the same time. And that's why crypto is correlated with the equities market. It's nothing to do with institutions. So again, expecting lower prices here is probably going to be a good short. If this will pop up a little bit more, I'm going to try to sell the top of the range on Bitcoin and just look for it to come down and break the low. And as it enters into this, your higher time frame weekly levels down here, honestly, it's a good short. Try to get it short and put a stop at break even and leave it, because if this ends up breaking the low, this thing's in trouble. Bitcoin's in trouble here. And we already identified that there's likely weakness coming in the equities market. Just a general synopsis of what's going on here. We have a whole of market approach. We look at everything and not just one thing. We're not just trading GJ here. We look at all of the entire market and put the puzzle together. Every morning, the market comes in and dumps a bucket of puzzle pieces out on the table, and we have to put it together as quickly as possible to try to get a big picture of what's going on in the market. Whole of market approach. We don't concentrate all of our risk in one place. We don't concentrate our risk in the asset that we're trading or the strategy that we're using, to be honest. Very big on distributed risk. So, again, finishing up here, oil, talked about, it's low. Gold, it's low. Weird price action this morning. It's a lot of wait and see here is what it looks like, which is okay. That is all right. We'll go in and do our lower time frame stuff in a little bit, in a few minutes here for the group. But as far as the macro general idea of what's going on, I guess that's about it. Probably just look to finish this stuff up next week. We'll take another look at it on Monday, see how this weekly candle closes. And we're also just started a new month, September 2nd here. We just started a new monthly candle. So there's probably going to be reversals. We'll look at the monthly candles and see, but don't tend to do that too much. But there's probably going to be some reversals coming, and all of these things that have made a big move, there's likely to be pullbacks on higher time frames, on a macro pullbacks coming. Is what it looks like. It's what it looks like. A lot of things are at major range lows, major range highs, expecting some type of stabilization and pullback. There's going to be some good trading coming. It looks like the market is trying to stabilize and reverse as a whole. Pretty flat this week. We were just talking about that a few minutes ago in the group. It's a very flat week. Kind of weird, actually. Not a lot of trending movement in the market this week. Very choppy, very dangerous, frustrating week. But it is what it is. Okay, Euro Yen here. Might be getting an entry here on Euro Yen. We'll take a look at this and see where it is. Anyway, I'm going to close this video out. We'll take another spin through. Hope everybody has a good weekend. Have a good Labor Day. We'll hit it again on Monday. We're going to do some group trading for the rest of the day on Friday.